G's, no design on my jacket. Work hard and I'm changing my bracket. Talk tough, we ain't hearing that racket. Dots came in, you know how to stack it. Don't take it wrong, but I'ma need my ends though. I got tigers on my chest like Kenzo. Rail came, yeah, he putting that Benz though. Carol's here, man, you know he stay 10 toes. Big dog, man, you know I ain't worried. Bent up, so I'm talking real slurry. Got a blast, bro.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This is Adam Caplan, the voice in your ears with AC Radio. We're coming to you a little bit later than usual. The boy was sick over the weekend, missed out on even watching UFC Orlando, even though I know it was a banger. But, we're delivering the product to you either fucking way because AC is pumped to be talking about UFC 282, Magamed, Ankalaev versus Jan Błachowicz. So, great fight. Why? Because we weren't supposed to get it. We were supposed to get Jiri Prochazka versus Glover Teixeira 2. The first one was the fight of the year where Jiri won by rear naked choke in the 5th round. After that fight was a complete back and forth bloodbath. But Jiri tore his shoulder, one of the worst shoulder injuries that the UFC doctors have ever seen. And Glover Teixeira was offered Ankalaev. And he said no. Why? Because he's a long-rangey, dangerous Dagestani southpaw. And even though Glover is a little bit older in his career and you think there's no more time to waste, listen, man, Glover beats the Glovers beat. Why? Because he is the one who is in control of his own career, and he is the one who has actually proven us wrong time and time again. So, Glover will be back, probably will be fighting the winner of Błachowicz and Magamed. So let's get into it. I mean, first, we have Ilia Topuria versus my man, Bryce Mitchell from Arkansas, the Dirty South. This is an interesting one. Why? Because a lot of people are counting out the striking in Bryce Mitchell. I think they're forgetting about the match with Edson Barboza, one of the most vicious Muay Thai strikers in the UFC for over a decade. Even though he's at the tail end of his career, listen, you're striking with Edson Barboza, you have what it takes, even if it doesn't look the prettiest, even if it doesn't look the most technically sound. Keep in mind, these are MMA fighters. They're not boxers. So when you see them hitting the pads, no, they're not going to be hitting it like Tank Davis. Why? Because they have so many different facets to focus on that it's impossible to be able to maybe get that skill level to that nth degree, number one. And number two, you got to set up your punches and your kicks differently when you're in MMA due to kickboxing or boxing. Why? Because there's grappling. So I'm not saying that MMA fighters will never get to a true high level. That's absolutely not true. But when we are comparing an MMA fighter boxing versus a boxer boxing, you could clearly see the difference. Same thing as an MMA fighter doing jiu-jitsu versus a jiu-jitsu practitioner. So, it's all good. But anyways, big matchup. Why? 15 or 16-0 in Bryce Mitchell versus 12-0 in Ilia Topuria. Topuria is an exciting fighter. He is an absolute dog. He's got great grappling, good jiu-jitsu, and great boxing. His hands on the pads are very, very different from Bryce Mitchell's, but it's not all about the pads. That's what folks forget about. That's all for the cameras and the flash. What really matters is what happens in the octagon. And both of these fighters are undefeated, but Ilia Topuria has shown a little bit more holes in his game due to the fact that he's sometimes a little too aggressive, a little too giddy, a little too bouncy. Got hit with that head kick from Jai Herbert, and that was almost the end of the fight. But then in that second round, he put out a fucking knockout that was having me laughing in my seat. I couldn't believe it. And I wasn't laughing at the danger that Jai Herbert went through. I was actually laughing at the amazement of that combination. Ilia Topuria has the hands to put Bryce Mitchell away. But his aggression and his eagerness could sometimes put him that little bit extra forward where Bryce Mitchell could capitalize, especially in the later rounds when Bryce Mitchell is going to definitely want to bring that fight to the ground and utilize his jiu-jitsu. So I'm looking for an action-packed 3-round fight. I'm going to be real with you. I would have loved for this one to be a 5-round fight, maybe later into the next year of 2023. And I also would have maybe liked both of these guys to be on the card, but not fighting each other. Why? Because Topuria had beef with Paddy Pimblett. Okay. They're both young, winning fighters. They had beef. You got Bryce Mitchell, who's also a superstar. So, it kind of seems like now we're putting Topuria or Bryce Mitchell in a situation where one of their O's have to go. And I know in MMA that doesn't hurt their stock, but like, what's the rush, baby? We've been slowly building O'Malley, slowly building Paddy, slowly building all of these folks. And then we put Topuria and Mitchell in at the same time. It's like, I don't know, feel like it's a little too quick, but it's a great fucking fight to open up the card of UFC 282. But again, would have maybe liked to see it later in 2023 in a 5-round fight on an Apex fight or a smaller city fight night card. So that's my assessment on it. And then we got my man, Darren Till, who, had quite the meme written about him by one of my buddies, TMM Official. Basically, the meme is that Darren Till pulled out of the fight, and then when you slid out, it said Darren Till pulled out a schlong. So that was a pretty funny meme. It was an interesting one because I think people were not surprised at first when they found out that Darren Till pulled out, but definitely didn't pull out of the fight. The meme entailed that he pulled out something else. So, you could insert the eggplant emoji on that again. But listen, we got Dricus du Plessis from South Africa versus Liverpool's own Darren Till, who once again has traveled to a new camp in Tiger Muay Thai. Got a little bit of flack for going to Tiger Muay Thai because it seems as if he's maybe jumping a little bit all over the place. But, I think that Darren Till is going to do what Darren Till needs to do to get himself motivated. I think that he takes every fight a little bit differently because we don't know what goes on outside of the octagon and outside of the training room with guys like Darren Till. So, if in that moment he feels that he needs to go off to Thailand, Phuket, Thailand, and go to Tiger Muay Thai to get his training camp in, that's what he will do. And I think that is, in fact, the right thing to do. So, look, we got a guy in Dricus du Plessis that comes forward relentlessly, throwing caution to the wind, even leaving himself opened in the process. Okay, what I'm looking for Darren Till to do is be strong on the back foot, slowly use those back steps, slowly use his footwork to push backwards and land those punches while he's moving backwards, okay? Darren Till has to be strong in the counter-punching game as well, strong while punching backwards, and most importantly, when Dricus du Plessis comes forward, he can't just pull his torso back and leave his chin in the air because du Plessis will then follow up with more punches, which then could leave Darren Till in a very dangerous spot. So footwork is going to be the factor for Darren Till in this fight. He's got to move those fucking feet because Dricus only has one gear, and that's forward, and that's fast. And, if Darren Till is not ready to go to the nth degree, not ready to go to that shadow realm, Dricus will drag him in there. So that's going to be a really exciting fight. I'm looking forward to it. And I'm glad that the UFC listened to Darren Till. He said, I'm done with the 5-rounders. I don't need the main event slots if I'm not fighting for the belt, etc. I want to focus on my 3-round fights. I don't want the cardio to always be the main focus. This isn't why I got into the sport. And look, I'm going to be real with you. Does it show a little bit of a lack of professionalism? For sure. Do you hate on a guy for being so honest? Not really. Have you ever tried the sport? It's fucking hard. And when you're Darren Till, who doesn't always necessarily have the right mindset or maybe the right level of discipline, which I hate to say these types of things because it's like, who the fuck am I to say it? But this is why we do it, right? We analyze things. Maybe in an alternate universe, we have fighters analyzing podcasters and MMA media members, and I think that'd be a hoot of a show. So I like the fight, but it's really up to Darren Till to move his feet, keep his chin down, keep his counter punching strong, and fight well while moving backwards. Whereas Dricus, look, same plan as usual. Guy's going to come fucking forward, throw caution to the wind, and look to put Darren Till out of there. I don't think he knows any other way. So great fight in Darren Till and Dricus du Plessis. So I was ready to talk about Ponzinibbio versus Robbie Lawler, but Robbie Lawler pulled out, so now we have Alex Morono taking in for Ponzinibbio. I'm not going to touch that fight. Didn't have enough time to do my research, but look, if the Ponzinibbio that was ranked before his hiatus is going to be the one that shows up in the octagon, it's going to be a very, very exciting fight because Morono is a dog. and he will stay in front of Ponzinibbio for 15 minutes. And you best believe that the fact that it's a catchweight fight, he doesn't have to worry about that extra 10 pounds. It'll make a difference and make for an exciting fight. So I'm looking forward to that one. And we got to take a breath now because we got a really exciting fight on the co-main event. You know, what an exciting one. Paddy the Baddy Pimblett, Liverpool's own, fighting Jared Gordon from New Jersey. You know, if you took a second to even know the shit that Jared Gordon has been through, I mean, you know, he speaks about being molested at a sleepaway camp when he was 8 years old, starting to smoke weed to self-medicate at 14, you know, and then you fast forward to 2015, he had his final overdose on heroin. And, you know, that's when he really showed himself that he was meant for more. And, you know, the reason why I'm choosing my words here because, you know, people don't understand the struggles that fighters go through to get into the octagon. They have no idea the struggle, which is why, you know, sometimes when I'm being critical about Darren Till, it bothers me because I do know that there's another factor there, perhaps in the mental health realm that we have to take a little bit more sensitively. But listen, man, Jared Gordon was addicted to heroin. He was panhandling. He was in the streets. He was in and out of homes. He lost the trust of his family. He lost the trust of his girlfriend, his friends, his peers. He lost everything. And then in 2015, after he had that drug overdose, he decided that it was time to clean things up and he was going to take MMA, you know, continue his career to the ability that he should. Ended up being a CFFC champion, which is a great promotion in Atlantic City. And if you guys know the New Jersey, New York MMA scene, these guys don't mess around. So that is a very big and respectable title to have on the regional circuit. And on the flip side, we got Paddy the Baddy Pimblett, who has made such noise in the UFC in short amount of time. And it's funny, you know, everyone's on Paddy's you know, parade. Everyone's ready to go. They don't realize the guy was a superstar when he was in Cage Warriors. He was a superstar in 2013 and 14 and 15 and 16 and 17 up until he got into the UFC. He was the Cage Warrior featherweight champion. Who else was the Cage Warrior featherweight champion? Conor McGregor. Who's now going to be the next superstar in the UFC after Conor McGregor? Paddy the Baddy. So, you know, big ups to Cage Warriors, another very respectable promotion. Not even fair to call it regional because pretty much they take care of all of Europe. So, you know, it's the best promotion on the continent of Europe. So really, really great stuff. And again, Paddy Pimblett, what did he say after his fight in the last one? He lost his dear friend Ricky due to suicide, you know, and spoke up to the men out there that are going through things and said, speak up. Don't take it to that level because people care about you and no one wants to see you in a fucking casket. So speak up because we all do actually battle something and we all deserve an ear and we all deserve to be heard out and spoken for. So, you know, big ups to Paddy for that. I actually see Jared Gordon and Paddy Pimblett working together after they fight each other on Saturday night. Why? Because Paddy just dropped the Baddy Foundation. You know, he'll be working with less fortunate kids who have depression issues, suicide prevention, etc. And then you have Jared Gordon, who also, you know, would do anything in his power to make sure that people stay on the straight and narrow, they stay addiction-free, and that they stay motivated in a skill set and in a talent that they really love. So that's why I see these guys working together. So what a great, great storyline there. Two gentlemen of the sport. These are fucking heroes in the UFC. Those are the heroes. The guys that want to make a difference outside of the octagon. The guys that know that there are more fights and more battles going on in between your ears than on the tube when you're watching UFC 282. So big ups to them, and let's get into the fight. I mean, look, Jared Gordon discovered by Dana White on Dana White's Looking for a Fight. You know, great matchup. They watched him at CFFC. That was all Gucci. Paddy Pimblett rejected the UFC in the past. Why? Because he didn't think he was ready. He felt that he needed to build a little bit more of a resume, build a little bit more size and a little bit more experience before he was ready to take on the big show. And here we are, UFC 282. He's in the co-main event, 19-3 versus 19-5. Listen, Jared Gordon has great wrestling. He has good striking, but most importantly, he's got nothing to fucking lose. You think Jared Gordon gives a shit about losing to Paddy Pimblett, the next superstar, the fifth Beatle, as they say? You think he gives a shit? This guy was in the streets. This guy was on death's door, addicted to drugs. His family didn't want to know from him. Those are losses. Losing to Paddy Pimblett on Saturday night is not something that Jared Gordon fears, and that's what makes him the most dangerous opponent that Paddy has fought to date. Because a lot of these folks who fight the superstars are just trying, similar to like how Cannonier and Izzy went. Let's just get the fight over with so I don't get memed or highlight reeled. I'll survive the 25 minutes doing not that much, and then we'll go on with it. That doesn't always happen when you fight guys like Paddy Pimblett. You end up getting highlight reeled. I mean, we saw Jordan Levitt. He said, after I beat you by rear naked choke, I'm going to teabag you like Call of Duty. And that's what Paddy did. But you think Jared Gordon is worried about that? Trust me, he's dealt with a lot more ridicule, a lot more adversity, and a lot more pain. So I don't think that Jared Gordon is worried about Paddy the Baddy. And that's, like, as I said, makes him such a dangerous opponent. And then we got Paddy, oozing of confidence, no fucks given. You know that, as he says. The guy just emanates confidence. He, every single camp, he balloons up like a whale. He eats all the chocolate and all the cheeseburger that he wants. But every time he steps on that scale, God willing, he makes weight and he performs well. And that is a sign of a guy who is built different, who's a little crazy up here, who has a discipline that the average person could not resonate with, because when they go on that 3 to 6 month binge, they never really get out of it. Paddy goes on, and then he goes off, and then he turns it back on, baby. And then on Saturday night, you're going to see him with those new veneers and that fresh Liverpool haircut, weighing in at 155 pounds when, it seemed like last night he was 200. So this guy is built different. One thing for Paddy Pimblett is he's going to have to be a little bit more patient on the feet. He's been a little bit too reluctant to just fucking rush in and get excited and try to put his opponents away. I think against Jared, it would be best that Paddy comes in with that energy, but a little bit more eager to just jab to kind of get a read on Jared Gordon and force those takedowns. So then Paddy Pimblett could sprawl, look to take the back, and look for that rear naked choke. I think that if Paddy smothers Jared Gordon with a nice jab, a solid patient 1-2, couple of teeps to the body and leg kicks, Jared Gordon will eventually get frustrated, look to shoot in, and that's when Paddy could take over with his jiu-jitsu game, because that's where I think the biggest difference is in this matchup is the jiu-jitsu realm. Although I think that Paddy has great wrestling as well versus Jared Gordon, I think that Jared is quite a strong guy for the division, but there's one martial art that nobody realizes strength doesn't matter in, and that's jiu-jitsu. So I think that that's going to be a great matchup, a great storyline. Already a big congrats from AC to both of these guys, because these are the people that are making a difference. Paddy the Baddy and Jared Gordon have had people come up to them in the lead up to this fight, thanking them for almost saving their lives, or for saving their lives, for speaking up against suicide prevention and having an addiction and all of these things. People don't realize that we look at these people as role models. And when they say and do things that resonate with us, they touch our hearts. So big ups to those guys. I'm going to take a sip of my electrolytes. No happy dad, sad. Haven't been able to get that sad with the right acoustics since I've gotten sick. Kind of sound like a dying balloon when I say it. But anyways, we got the main event, Magamed Ankalaev versus Jan Błachowicz. We got a dangerous southpaw, a Dagestani in Magamed. I mean, you should have seen the UFC primetime shot. They had him training, hitting pads on the mountains of Dagestan. The houses were literally built into the fucking mountains. This was like some Game of Thrones shit. I don't even know what it was, but it was the coolest thing I've ever seen, the coolest setting. I didn't find the UFC had ever showed Dagestan in that light before. But wow, what a beautiful sight it was when Magamed Ankalaev was hitting pads on the top of his village in Dagestan. I believe it was the Shamul region. And you just got to think, wow, that's a place where they build hard fucking guys. That's a place where they build super soldiers. That's a place where they build people that have no fear. And based off of what I've seen in the last few years in the UFC from the Dagestanis, that is indeed correct. So, look, if I'm Jan Błachowicz, I'm worried about one thing and one thing only, and that's sticking to my own game plan. The second I get sucked in, the second Jan gets sucked into any of Ankalaev's tactics, it's going to be a long night for Błachowicz. Błachowicz likes to bring that pressure. He's well-rounded. He's got a good clinch. He's got great leg kicks. He's got good wrestling, as we saw in the Izzy fight, and his boxing is sharp also. I think that one of the best places for Jan to be is in the clinch with Ankalaev, throwing those elbows, throwing those knees, and slowing down the pace of the fight and putting his weight on Ankalaev to get him tired for those later rounds. You know, Ankalaev wasn't fighting 5 rounds. You know, he was supposed to fight Jan Błachowicz for 3 rounds, and now he's fighting him for 5. So that's a little bit of a difference, number one. Błachowicz has gone 5 rounds, though, so I'm looking for him to pull those veteran tactics and trying to slow down the first few rounds so that he could turn it on in the later ones. And then from Ankalaev, I mean, look, guy is a fucking monster. Long, rangy southpaw, punches, throws that straight left hand while he's moving backwards like a bazooka. He slides back, he slides back, he slides back, and then he puts the perfect amount of weight on that back foot to be able to fire out that 2. It's just a thing of beauty. We were watching it against Kutalaba, which he then ended up putting him away in the second round of that fight. What a great, great performance that was. And so, yeah, I think that that straight left and that right check hook of Ankalaev is going to play a factor in the fight due to the fact that I think that Jan is going to look to close the distance and slow things down with clinching. You could expect Ankalaev to fire off that straight left while he's moving backwards or circle off to the right with that right check hook. And, you know, let me tell you, when that right check hook lands and you drop, there is no surviving the ground and pound of Magamed Ankalaev. There is none. The way that he throws his ground and pound is so vicious and so deadly and shuts the lights off to such a darkness that it's like, whoa, not interested. So Jan Błachowicz has his hands full. Magamed Ankalaev has his hands full because he's fighting a crafty veteran in Jan Błachowicz, Mr. Polish Power, who is a former UFC light heavyweight champion, has tasted gold before, you know, but is also no stranger to defeat. I think that Ankalaev, you know, hasn't clearly, I think he's lost once in his career. So, you know, going to be an interesting fight. Would have loved to see the Glover Yuri one. That's not what we're seeing. We're getting Magamed Ankalaev versus Jan Błachowicz. I'm looking forward to that one. You can catch me Thursday night. If this is going to be out before, on Thursday night on Instagram Live, I'm going to be on there breaking down Bellator. I'm looking forward to that one as well. We got Danny Sabatello versus Rafion Stotts. And then after that, give him a little bit of that Brazilian pronunciation, actually. And then after that, we have Patchy Mix versus Magamed Magomedov. So that's a fucking interesting one. The Bellator's Bantamweight Grand Prix. They got the white gloves on. You know how AC feels about the white gloves. That's all I got for you today, baby. Listen, one thing that we need to remember is there are a lot of fucking good fights on in Bellator, in One Championship, in the regional circuit on UFC Fight Pass. Get dialed in. Stay tuned into more MMA. AC Radio. We're out, baby.
G's, no design on my jacket. Work hard, now I'm changing my bracket. Talk tough, we ain't hear that racket. Dogs came in, you know how to stack it. Don't take it wrong, but I'ma need my ends though. I got tigers on my chest like Kenzo. Rail came, yeah, he putting that Benz though. Carol's here, man, you know he stay 10 toes. Big dog, man, you know I ain't worried.